All right, everybody. So I have a lot to cover in today's video. Um, I have quite a bit, and I have quite a few things that I'm going to be showing you guys today. But first, let's talk about the fact that Superman just dropped on digital yesterday after only being in theaters for 35 days. So I've said before that there's usually a 45-day wait period, before movies can drop on digital. It's just, a rule that Hollywood has. So in this movie, and this movie was only in theaters, for this movie was only in theaters for 35 days. So um, I'm gonna bring up Gunn's reason for why the movie dropped so early, which is just total bullshit. And I'm obviously, so I'm going to pull this up now. I'm going to read it. And then obviously I'm going to explain, what's wrong with it. So this comes from Variety. And it says, this comes from Variety, and it says, well, it's very complicated, but the truth is, it is because of Peacemaker, Gunn said. I originally thought Peacemaker was going to come out next month, and I will be addressing what's wrong with that in just a second. There was a lot of things that are beyond our control. So that Peacemaker is coming out now, and at the end of the day, I wanted everyone to be able to see Superman that wanted to, even those people who couldn't get to a theater before Peacemaker, and that's really the reason for it. So let me address what's wrong with this, okay? There was a there Peacemaker's original Peacemaker's original or Peacemaker's the season 2 of Peacemaker, its release window was always August 21st, okay? And I specifically remember seeing a video from James Gunn. Originally it was a past, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, so Peacemaker is set to premiere August 21st, and this came out, this official release date was revealed. This, official release date was revealed. Okay, this is very telling. So this is from tvguide.com, and this article is all the way back, goes all the way back to July 28th, okay, of this year. And it literally says here that Peacemaker is set to premiere, August 21st. But if you go back a little further, yep. If you go back a little further, this article this article was published May 13th, okay? And it specifically says here, and this is from WBRCnews.com. And it says here that Peacemaker season 2 will be dropping in August. And this article was all the way back in May. So the point that I'm trying to make here is Peacemaker season 2 dropping in in August was always the plan. Okay, it was always the plan. So the fact that Gunn is saying, Superman is dropping digitally now, because of Peacemaker, coming out this month is fucking bullshit. It is absolutely bullshit. And this is what James Gunn does. This is what James Gunn does. He dances around everything that he says. Okay. You cannot take anything that he says at face value because he has an entire reputation of lying. This is what James Gunn does. He is the biggest narcissist in Hollywood. Okay. And I'm going to bring up something else that I have here. And that is, I'm going to explain to you guys the difference between domestic box office and worldwide box office, okay? Because a lot of people, and yes, obviously I'm talking about, the fucking gun shills out there. Domestic box office and worldwide box office are not the same thing, okay? And so I'm going to bring up the difference here. And it says domestic box office are ticket sales, are the amount of tickets that sold here in the US and in Canada, okay? Worldwide box office is, I think you can pretty much guess what that is. Those are the amount of tickets that sold all over the world, okay? So I'm going to bring up, and I actually grabbed this. Yesterday. And what I have here, I'll show you guys the image. What I have here are the numbers. What I have here are the global box office numbers for Man of Steel and Superman. Okay. And I also have here the average ticket prices for when Man of Steel came out, 12 years ago, and the prices, the tickets are now, for Superman. So globally, Man of Steel made 670 million, 145,518 dollars. Okay. And you can probably see here the average ticket price in 2013 was $8.13. Okay. And then ticket sales. And then this is how many tickets sold. Okay. The amount of tickets that sold for Man of Steel were 82,426,879. Okay. Now, the global box office number for Superman is 578 million, 843,139. That is the box office number for Superman. And the average ticket price today, here is $16.08. And I actually, and I and in fact, I shit you not, I know in some states, in some states across the US, tickets are actually $20 each. One guy that I watch, one guy that I watch in particular, I won't bring up his name in this video, but one guy that I watch, when he went to see Superman, it was $20 a ticket. So, these are all things that you need to take into account when you're trying to find out, how well, the only way to tell how well a movie did is to count the ticket sales, is to count how many tickets were sold. Domestic box office doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And the amount of tickets that sold here for Superman are 35,997,714. So you can tell that, that these two numbers together, Man of Steel made more money. Man of Steel sold more tickets. And anybody here, who wants to come at me, in the comments and say, oh, well, tickets, tickets, cost more, than they did today, or, the economy's bad, or, or just, whatever bullshit, you want to come at me with. If everybody in the world cared about if everybody in the world cared about how much tickets cost today, we wouldn't have movie theaters. If everybody in the world cared about how much tickets cost, people wouldn't go at all. If you make a good movie, if you make a good, if you make a good, competent, quality movie, that people, that get, people's interest, they are going to go see it. I already said in my last video that, IMAX tickets for Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey are already sold out. And that movie doesn't even come out until next July. But those tickets are already sold out. So anybody here, who wants to sit there and try to justify their own bullshit, just don't even bother, because it's not going to work. These are the facts. I've said, I've talked about this to death here, on the channel, but I built this channel around honesty. I built this channel around delivering the facts and, and stating things, how I see them. And then something else I'm going to bring up. Something else I'm going to bring up is I pulled this online as well. And this is basically the numbers. This is, you could call it a chart, you could call it, whatever you want to call it, but this is a list of shortest theatrical to digital release window for a DC film, okay? And this is very telling. Now, Super Pets, which came out in 2022, dropped on digital only 25 days after release. Now, Super Pets actually did pretty well, from what I understand. From what, I did some looking around online, And from what I understand, it did pretty well. So that doesn't really count as a flop. Joker 2, which came out last year, Warner Brothers lost 2 million on that movie. Dropped on digital only after 25 days. Shazam 2, 32 days. That was also a flop. The Flash, I don't think I even need to, I don't think I even need to say that that movie was a flop, but dropped on digital only after 32 days. Black Adam, which did manage to make a minor profit, dropped on digital only 32 days. And finally we have Superman that dropped on digital, obviously, just yesterday. So so guys, these are the facts. These are the facts. These are how they are. This is how it is. And in the fact that Gunn is trying to spin this, is trying to spin this, is trying to, spin this whole thing just because, Peacemaker is dropping, next week, is ridiculous. People all over social media are already saying, that his, that his statement, is totally bullshit. YouTubers, all over the place are calling him out. People, all over social media are saying, yeah, this is bullshit. This is James Gunn. This is James Gunn just doing damage control. Remember, guys, this is the same guy, remember, guys, this is the same guy that said, I didn't fire Henry Cavill. He was never cast. And then later on, he tried to come out and, and actually, not that long ago, he tried to, he tried to say, oh yeah, and not that long ago, I think it was just a couple weeks ago, he said, Gunn said that he would love to see Henry Cavill in the DCU, and that he actually tried to, and I specifically, remember hearing, the day that Cavill, said, that he wasn't returning, which was back in October of 2022. Gunn tried to say, Gunn, tried to spin this whole thing where he said, oh yeah, we offered him another role. It's like, oh, okay. So you're saying, that you didn't fire him. He was never cast. And then, and now you're trying, and then he was trying to spin it as, oh, we offered him another role and we would love to see him back. So which is it? So which is it? This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about when I say that he dances around what he says. You cannot take anything that he says at face value, because he does not tell the truth, and he never will. And I can tell you guys for a fact right now, in theory, even if that were true, even if they did offer him another role, there is no way in hell that Cavill would agree to come back. That Cavill, would agree to come back after the way they treated him. They screwed him over big time. Big time. You know, it's like, make it make sense. Make it make sense. So, you know, and Warner Brothers is, of course, you know, heavily promoting fucking, you know, Peacemaker, you know, and, you know, granted, you know, I think I said this, you know, in my previous video, but, you know, granted, you know, they have no other major, you know, major projects coming out this year. You know, they have no, you know, they have no, you know, like, they have no emergency you know, plan in place, you know, for when everything crashes and burns. They just don't. They just don't. This entire current regime of you know, of Warner Brothers, you know, is just it, you know, is just it's just, you know, it's disgusting. You know, it's the same toxic bullshit company that they've always been. And I think I mentioned in my last video that Peter Safran's contract expires this year and Gunn's contract expires next year. So now I have nothing right now to you know, to confirm this, but right now it looks like Warner Brothers has no plans to renew either of their contracts. So and it looks like James Gunn is just you know, it's just you know, it's just going to try to you know, it's just going to try to, you know, push out you know, as many you know, as many you know, projects as he can before his you know, contract expires. And from what I understand, Gunn is currently working on a Superman family you know, project. Whether or not it's going to be Superman 2, I have no idea. And to be honest, I really don't give a shit, because Superman was the most mediocre, you know, most you know, most mediocre, most you know, probably the stupidest you know, superhero movie that I've seen in quite a while. And you know, so the fact that he is trying to, the fact that he is trying to move, you know, full steam ahead on this, you know, now I think is very telling, because, you know, he's gonna, because, I'm calling it now. He's gonna do everything within his power now to try to save his ass. And, you know, you know, I mean, you know, Supergirl and you know, Lanterns have already I'm pretty sure have already wrapped filming and have already, you know, wrapped you know, have already wrapped production. But again, I mean, and that actually brings me to something else that I saw recently that I completely forgot to mention in my last video. And this, and this I this I actually thought was pretty funny, just because of how fucking stupid it is. But there is a word on the street going around that Supergirl is going to outperform Spider-Man Brand New Day at the box office. I am telling both both of which are scheduled to come out next year. I can tell you right now, there is no way in hell that that's going to happen. And I can tell you right now, there is no way in hell that that's going to happen because Spider-Man does for Marvel what Spider-Man does for Marvel what Batman does for Warner Brothers and the DC brand. He sells. Spider-Man is the most popular superhero in the world next to Batman. He sells. It doesn't matter. It's a fact. He sells. Spider-Man No Way Home, made over $1 billion. And now that they have friggin' John Bernthal returning, as the Punisher for the new Spider-Man movie, that's gonna bring a lot of people rushing to the theater, to see this movie. I can tell you that right now. People will be rushing to the theater to see this. A, because it's Spider-Man, and B, because, John Bernthal is returning. And obviously, and the fact that John Bernthal is going to be in this movie, it's going to completely change, the overall tone of the movie. It's not going to be just, your typical, Spider-Man movie. So I can guarantee you that people will be choosing this over fucking, Supergirl. I mean, I'm calling it now. Supergirl is going to bomb harder than Superman. I'm calling it now. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to, Warner Brothers is not going to have an audience for this movie. They just aren't. And from what I understand, Warner Brothers is already panicking, and they should. They should. They're a bullshit company. They have literally they're a bullshit company. They have a bullshit regime. I've talked about, I've said before, what a bullshit, CEO and businessman David Zaslav is. And I'm telling you right now, there is no way in hell that this is going to fly with audiences. It's not, because I can guarantee you, people who didn't like Superman are going to have no interest in Supergirl. I'm telling you right now. But anyway, so that is my update for today. Let me know. Let me know what you guys think. Chime off below in the comments. Like, subscribe, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.